What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Big Sis. I am Big Sis Val, and that is...
I am Big Sis Ange.
Heck yeah. So thank you guys for tuning back in. Again, this is a safe haven where we can just discuss, anything that we're going through, and we are your big sisters to, give you some tips. So today's topic is going to be about comparisons. Now, this can, fall into any category, whether it's friends, it's family, or it's your work environment, right? Comparisons can be both good and bad. For example, let's say, whenever I was in a work environment, I had worked at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I moved to a different location, right? Because I had moved, and I'm like thinking everything's gonna be good. I'm gonna pick up everything just like normal. And that work environment was actually very, very it felt like high school. As far as my coworkers, even the managers were acting a little childish, and I was like, what did I sign up for? So it was really hard to kind of just stay focused and do my job without kind of getting steered one way or another. And what are your thoughts about that, Angie? Have you ever had anything like that where you had to stay strong in a tough environment?
I think that real estate in general, whether you be in a team, whether you're just doing your things alone, you're at a brokerage office, it is completely that sort of nature. Like, you have those agents that are killing it. They're they're inspirational. They're that positive side. And then you have those agents that are just fucking lazy and don't fucking do anything at all. And like Mike Ferry says, offices are basically a daycare for adult realtors.
I never heard that, but that's so true.
Yes. So yes, I think just in general, you'll experience it one way or another, especially when you're an adult. You're going to be like, how old are you? How old are
you? Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes you have to remind people, come on, get it together. But at the same time, I like how you mentioned that, there's people in your brokerage office that are more skilled than you, it'll either do two things. It'll either, light the flame under your ass to just work harder, or it'll kind of discourage you and, make you feel little of yourself, which, hopefully you're more centered enough where you can just, look up and, get more motivated.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that, that's obviously a level of insecurity that you will start to feel that sort of way towards someone who's better than you, quote unquote, or just more skilled. In my eyes, obviously, I've reframed everything, and currently, when I look at someone who is way more skilled than me and they totally inspire me, it lights a flame under my ass for sure. But I can totally see how that would kind of discourage someone and almost make them think like they're not ever going to be that skilled. But we always have to remember that that same person that you're admiring, at some point, they didn't have those skills. So
right.
If you're sitting there and complaining or just feeling some type of way about these people, we have to remind ourselves that we need to do the same amount of work to get to their level before we can even compare ourselves. It's just...
Exactly.
It is what it is. You can't compare with someone that is like a monster or shark, whatever you want to call them. They did something to get there, and you can't get there in a snap of a finger. Just impossible.
Yeah. Exactly. And then also, just adding on to that, some people advance at different paces, right? So let's say we're both at very beginner level. You might be killing it, and I'm kind of just taking my time, but baby steps, right? And that's okay too, but we're still going to reach the same goal. It's just going to take your own pace. So nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways you think, for anybody who's listening, can they do maybe some exercises or some mental affirmations? What do you think some of the things they can do to kind of stay centered through any kind of obstacles?
Because I actually just finished doing something like that with a colleague of mine. He was talking about mantras. So I was really feeling it because something happened in my day today that kind of derailed me, and I was kind of focused too much on the negative side of whatever. It was something in my transaction. I'm not going to get into it because it's not really that relevant. But
yeah,
is that it obviously made me feel some type of way. And he's like, all right, you know what? Let's like stand up, let's get some energy and say some mantras out loud. And so some of the
Yes.
things we said was, okay, and every day and in every way, we will get better and better. So that was one of the things that we said. Followed by other ones, but I definitely think if you stand up and you give yourself that energy and you remind yourself as to why you're even doing this in the first place, you know, that's going to help you get back on board and focus versus like sitting there and comparing yourself, because at the end of the day, your goal is different from that person you're comparing yourself with. Like, and I mean more in the sense as to your why. Maybe your goal is similar, but your why is different. And you got to remember.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that. Wow. And so, especially even in the heat of the moment, maybe it's even okay to, step outside and, go say your mantras to yourself, or, go get some air, or, just to diffuse the situation right then and there. I like that, because it's more of like a self-talk, self-confident boost. And once you're centered and confident, then anything else you deal with is going to be great from there.
Exactly. Yeah, and you won't like carry that on towards the rest of your day, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Just
And then,
go.
yeah, so that way you don't keep it bottled up, it's already released. So that way, let's say you go to Starbucks and then, somebody, the cashier is like, oh, like, kind of pisses you off, and then you snap at her, and it's like, she didn't deserve that. Like, you're just mad over something else, so I don't know. That's how it works.
Or
not that it happened to me. I'm serious.
Valerie, what did you? That poor Starbucks lady, Valerie.
No, I didn't. Nothing. I was just using that as an example. It could be a domino effect of,
yeah, no, I totally
poorness.
And we deal with that, like when we're on the phone with people, like we'll get yelled at, and then you just have to remind yourself, like, oh, they're probably just having a bad day and just can't deal with it, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I get
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And that's pretty much really all I wanted to touch upon and you pretty much solved the cure for that. I was going to say more meditation or more kind of just self-talk, but I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Did you want to add to anything as far as this topic?
Well,
like as far as family or friends?
Well, before we get into like other subtopics, I kind of want to hear about your meditation and stuff, because I don't meditate and I've been wanting to, so maybe you can help me and our little sisters how to like, begin there, or what do you do to kind of deal with the comparison and.
Yeah, it's really hard because you're looking on your phone or Instagram or social media all the time, and to feel worthy of yourself. A lot of things I do is at night before I go to bed, I like to do yoga or stretch. I'll put on my music, whether that be like flute music or nature sounds or water trickling, anything that's very soothing. I basically hit all my senses. I hit my audio, right? And then I also I'll put some candles on, or I'll put some incense to hit my smell. And then I'll also dim the lights so that way it sets the tone, and then it'll just really it'll hit all my senses, and so I'm really in tune with whatever I'm thinking, and I just let any thoughts that come to my mind in, whether that be negative, I'm ugly, I'm not good enough, blah blah, the list goes on. I let those come in, because the more you reject, the more they're going to want to come in. So you let it all in. Anything you heard, bullying, somebody said something mean to you, somebody was yelling at you over road rage, anything, let it in, and then let it out with positive affirmations, with what you're worth. I'm worthy, I'm confident, I'm a shark, I'm this, that's it. Because you have to counter it,
Gotcha.
It's like a yin and a yang thing. So you have to counter it. And that's it, honestly. Once I allow those negativity thoughts to come in, even if I'm still holding on to something in the past, let it in and then let it out. And that's still a building process daily. If you do that, it's going to get easier and easier. The negative is going to limit and get smaller and smaller. There's going to be more positive messages. And I mean, that's been working for me. I've been kind of doing that for a month.
Okay. I'm going to give that a whirl, because that actually sounds really interesting. Just allowing the thoughts, because I feel like some people like to, suppress those thoughts and maybe not think about it.
Of
and
course.
it bottles up, like you said, and then it starts to affect other areas in your life. So I definitely like that. That helps awaken your thoughts and just like dealing with them at hand versus like, I'll deal with
Yeah.
you when I explode or whatever.
I don't know. It's kind of like, because you don't want to hear those thoughts. You don't want to hear those words. You
Yeah.
don't want to hear it. You're like, nope, not in my life. But I figured if you give it permission to come into your house, like, come on in, negative thoughts, it's like you have the power. And
Ah,
it's almost like you're calling yourself that before they even call you. I don't know.
yeah.
I was reading something, and then it really like allowed me to like look at my not dark side, but like, you know, the bad voice, that, you know, the bad talk, and then the good talk. So just really like take control. I think that's what's really important. Allow it to come in and come out whenever you say.
See, I'm happy that you broke that down for us, because I think when people think of meditation, they just think of like just like being quiet, you know.
And like sitting there.
Yeah, seriously. They don't really, they don't look at
Yeah.
catching your, or you know, like following your breathing, which I know there's breathing exercises and stuff, but I, for this sort of situation, I think what you're saying is definitely more helpful to help you deal with that sort of negative thoughts that you're having in comparison, you know.
Yeah.
Another cool thing I want to share before we kind of like go into something else. Remember that app you told me about, the I Am?
Yes.
I love that app. Okay. And now I use it. So guys, we're not sponsored by this, but I Am is legit. Like, and it's crazy that sometimes it's so relatable to whatever you're going through.
I know. I'm like, how did you know? Are you listening to me? Like,
Yeah, I'm like, look at this. I'm in the process of a positive change. What? What's going on?
you're like, I am right now.
Oh shit. But yeah, I love that app. And I think it's also kind of good sometimes to just have that sort of reminder, like, hey, you are deserving of love, and whatever
Oh
the
my gosh.
is at the time, and saying it out loud is like super powerful too.
Yes. And you have to say it out loud wherever you are, even if you're like in the grocery store or
Like,
anywhere.
I am deserving.
Oh my gosh. I just hit my head on the back of this wall. I laugh so hard right now. I am deserving. And then you're like, here you go.
Here you go. Here you go.
But yeah, it's basically an affirmation app, and it like gives you messages randomly. However, you can set it to however many times you want it to remind you, but it's golden. And even if it's automated, it's still like very helpful, because like Angie said, it really plays into perfect timing of your situations. You're like, what? You're like looking around.
But to kind of start branching off into in other areas, so we did talk about the negative side, you know, where we're comparing yourself and kind of feeling, you know, insecure about whatever you're comparing yourself with. I think it's now to talk about like comparing yourself to light up that fire under your ass. And so
Yeah.
some people, when you get to this point where you start looking at your people that you admire, your inspirations, whatever, you need to use that as a momentum in your life. So even if it's like you personally inspiring yourself, like, oh, I just closed that deal, or I just sold that whatever thing I just sold, like use that momentum to continue doing that. Like, you don't let that just be the ending result. Do I make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
No, that's a very good point.
yeah. So I think it's important, because I think people, once they reach that goal, they're kind of either content or
Yeah.
they don't know what to do next, but always have that sort of state of mind where it's like, okay, what's next? You know? What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is, you know, it pretty much says itself. It's like, because are you going to be content and satisfied when you hit your goal, or do you always want to keep leveling up? You know, I mean, because basically you have 1, 2, 3 goals and you're already almost there. Once you've hit them, you've already managed to think about or imagine even further goals. You're like, oh, I'm already almost here. I already almost have my new car, but what if I could get I don't know, a house? Or what if I can get some land and do some multi-units? Like, that's my next big investment. Like, you're already gonna, the human mind is naturally like gonna want to level up and want the next best thing. I mean, wouldn't you agree when the iPhones come out, it's like, oh, I want the new one. I just got a new one, but I want the new one.
Yes.
It's like, all right.
Everyone says everyone.
Right.
But I think I'm getting into family too, like kind of touching on that, I think would be good because we kind of talked about that in the past where, you know, you might have your goals, your visions, and your family kind of just starts to say negative things about it. And it kind of makes you feel some type of way because, you know, these are your parents, the people that are supposed to guide you through life. And if they're not supportive of what you're choosing to do, then you're not going to go all out, or you might just end up doing something else completely different from what you were even envisioning for yourself. What can you say about that, Belle?
Yeah, that's a really tough one because your parents, they've been with you since day one, and they know you inside and out. And so they obviously want the best for you. And sometimes your vision doesn't match theirs, and it's really tough to kind of, you know, either follow your heart or, you know, listen to your parents. But I think in all reality, it is your life. And I also believe that although parents have a huge influence on your life, sometimes they don't see like maybe 40% of whatever else you do on the outside of your life, whether that be work, hanging out with your friends, gym, workouts, I don't know, shop, whatever you do, right? So, you know, your parents known you for only so long, but once you've left the nest, you know, it's time for you to write your own story and to, you know, really, I don't know, hold on to your vision if it really means that much to you. But if it doesn't, and you're totally content with, you know, staying at home because, you know, maybe your parents are getting old, maybe you want to live with them and take care of them, and you guys are so, you know, such a unit, right? And that's okay too. But if you really want to, I guess, get out of your comfort zone and really meet your goals, then you have to just like do whatever you can to get it. Talk to your parents because they're your parents. They'll understand eventually.
Yeah, and if they don't in the moment, like you said, eventually they will.
I'm like, hopefully, any
Like,
day now.
you know, this could even go into just like, aside from your career, this can be your love life, like whoever you know, say you're coming out to your parents or
Yeah.
something like that. And I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
personally, I've never experienced that, but I'm sure it kind of falls in a similar category. And, you know, in my opinion, I think that you should always live to please yourself versus anyone else, because at the end of the day, like, you know, I'm, of course, like, this is going to sound bad, but I really don't mean it to be intentionally harmful to anyone. But at some point, your parents, those influencers, those people are going to pass, you know, it's a part of life. And when they do, like, are we
Yeah.
supposed to still live and please them? But they're not even here with us in the present.
Exactly. My point exactly. Once you leave the nest and you find your own place, you're not going to be living with your parents. So why live under their opinion and rules? And, you know, I mean,
At some point, I just think you got to realize, like, okay, I'm an adult. Like, I need to make decisions for myself. You know, if I can do this, why can't I do that? You know, like, it's just a matter
yeah,
of coming to that realization, in my opinion, you know?
it's really hard. And I'm actually glad you mentioned something like that. I do have a cousin who recently came out. He's 18 years old, but everybody kind of knew it already. His parents knew it and we all knew it, but his grandparents, right, didn't really get the idea because they're a little old fashioned. And so when he finally did come out, everyone was so excited. Everyone was like, yay, so happy for him, you know, because he was finally happy. You can tell like a weight was off his shoulders. But his grandparents are still kind of wrapping their head around the idea. And so, you know, with time, you know, but at least he feels so much like more forward in life. He doesn't feel like he's stuck or, you know, there's a wall, you know, and you can see it in his face and his smile and his posts, the way he talks. It's amazing. So go after your goals, do it.
And in my eyes, like, if they don't ever become supportive of whatever the situation is, like, they're probably not meant to be a part of your life. Let's just say that. And it's probably better that they're not a part of your life. But, you know, let's be optimistic and hope that they are supportive and they truly love you. And will eventually get there. It might take some time, but, you know, the ultimate goal is to get them on board.
Exactly. And if not tomorrow, eventually they will get there. It's not going to happen overnight, but as long as you're happy and they see it, I'm sure they'll be happy.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think so. Especially nowadays. If it were we lived in like the 1950s, we'd probably be screwed and probably like hung or something. But
I know. You'll probably be like, nope. Any other questions? That's it. Nope. The answer is no. All right. Cool. My roof, my rules. All right.
well, I think that kind of just wraps up this topic. I mean, did you have any final thoughts or maybe final tips or anything for our little sis?
I think we hit all the points, all the juicy points, family, friends, work, positive and negative. So no, just if you guys have any questions or have anything you're dealing with now, reach out to us. We'll personal message you, and everything's anonymous. So don't feel like, you're going to be singled out. So everyone's here for you and you're not alone.
Yes, guys, it's always a safe place. So you can always email us at bigsisquestion@gmail.com, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye guys. Love